Welcome. My name is Trenius Henderson. You're tuned into the infamous Living Room Network. Divine powers are working for us because we're doing right. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, this is the power of belief and divine oneness with the universe. How to have automatic manifestations. Now, I'm about to tell you a story. And when you hear this story, you will know exactly how feeling, mind, and the universe are all working together at all times throughout the day. This was what you call alignment. If you can get your feeling, your mind to work together, then the universe automatically corresponds with what you think in your mind and what you feel. These three elements are also known as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I know a lot of scriptures and a lot of religious texts like to refer to it as, the Holy Spirit, the Son, and then the Father. Okay, so the whole objective is, in order to manifest whatever you want, which is always manifesting at all times, one has to be alignment. One has to be alignment with feeling, mind, and the universe. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It all has to be in alignment for you to actually automatically manifest the thing that you are wanting to manifest. So when this video is over, you will know exactly how to live your life from this moment forward to get exactly what you want. Okay, so let me tell you this story. Now, there was this 40-year-old guy, right? His name was Leroy. Now, Leroy was a typical average Joe. He worked at this furniture place and he would build furnitures that, his manager would give him the catalog of the furniture he had to build for this month. He built sofas specifically. He was like a master at building sofas. And, Leroy had worked at this furniture place for about 15 years. About 15 years. He just like found something that he loved to do. Once upon a time, he didn't really have a hobby or anything like that because, the family that he grew up in, they were non-believers. He grew up in an atheist family. Nobody ever taught him about religion. Nobody ever taught him that, hey, you can go out here and you can live your dream life. Nobody ever taught him about the universe or God. Nobody taught Leroy about these things. But at the same time, Leroy was a good guy. He was a real dependable, really loyal, humble guy. He lived in his own world. And so he worked at this furniture warehouse, right? Where he had to build furniture, specifically sofas. Now, Leroy would come to work on time all the time, and his boss knew that he was a great worker, and he pretty much did his job at this warehouse. Now, this was a warehouse where it had other employees, of course, other people around, doing their furniture as well, and working alongside Leroy. But there was this one specific guy. His name was Tom. Now, Tom was like one of Leroy's homeboys, his closest friends. Tom was the one that Leroy talked to when he was building the sofas, when he was building the furniture. But one thing about Tom, see, Tom was different. Leroy was an atheist. Leroy didn't know nothing about anything of a higher power, but Tom was different. Tom was raised from a religious background. So Tom would always come to work, and when he have conversations with Leroy, the conversation would always go into something metaphysical about the mind or about God. Leroy was raised in the Baptist church. I mean, not Leroy, but Tom was raised in the Baptist church and stuff. So he would always bring up his past life of, religion and saying prayers and things of that nature. So Leroy, he listened to what Tom was saying, but he didn't necessarily take it seriously. So I guess Tom was the guy that called himself trying to convert Leroy from being an atheist to being a believer, so to speak. But, Leroy wasn't hearing it. He was still in his own world. He was an atheist. He was just like, okay, whatever, I don't even know nothing about that. So one day they both had to work, and Tom, didn't even say anything about, anything religious or trying to get Leroy to believe in a higher power. Leroy just came to work. He started working on the sofa, and he knew Tom was gonna do his everyday daily preaching, as they were working. So Leroy said, "Hey man, I just want to ask you. I've been thinking." Leroy say, "Hey, is it any possible way you can take me to the teacher, or the guru that you go to, man, that's been teaching you all this stuff? I just want to do something different. I want to try something different for a change." Tom was shocked. Tom was like, Tom had his lunchbox in his hand. He almost dropped his lunch and his sandwich. He was shocked. He was like, startled that Leroy had just came out and just asked him to go with him to see the teacher, to see the guru. And, Tom said, sure. As a matter of fact, we can go tonight after work. So that night, Tom and Leroy met up after work, at the spot where the guru teaches. And, they went in there and, Leroy, was in his zone listening. Tom was somewhere else. And, Tom was somewhere else sitting in the congregation and whatnot amongst the people. And the next thing you know, Leroy, he was taking in what the guru was saying, because the guru was talking about mind power. The guru was talking about how you can have your soul align up with your mind, and your mind align up with your feeling, or your spirit align up with your mind, and your mind align up with the universe. So, hearing all this information, Leroy was just learning. He was learning. He was an atheist. Nobody had never told him anything about mind power and how you can be connected to the divine oneness of the universe. Leroy was thinking in his mind, wow, that sounds about right. I've never heard anything that resonated with me so much. But he wasn't saying that. Of course, he was just paying attention. But so when they left and they rode in the car together, Tom had to take Leroy back home and drop him off. But Leroy was telling Tom, he was like, you know what, man, that makes so much sense. Leroy was smart, man. Leroy was smart. As a matter of fact, Leroy was so smart that he was like building his own furniture, for his own place at his job, because he was so good and so fast at building the furniture that the job wanted him to build. He had his own furniture that he had built, like stored away in the warehouse, and so everybody knew that, Leroy was like really smart and he was really good at his craft. And so Leroy was telling Tom in the car, he was like, man, that made so much sense, man. I'm going to go home and I'm going to try that. He was like, it really makes sense to know that, the feeling of how you feel can align up with your mind and your thinking align up with he was like, the power of the universe. The power of the universe is infinite. It's always giving us what we want according to how we think and how we feel. So if we feel and if we think and we feel, in alignment, if that's in alignment, then you mean to tell me that the universe will feel the same way we feel and give us what we want? And Tom was just like, yeah, man, yeah. Tom was happy, man. He had just I guess he felt like he converted somebody, but he was happy, man. He was like, yeah, man, yeah. I mean, he was telling Tom this stuff better than Tom knew it. Tom was even shocked. Listen, Leroy was in there preaching to Tom by this time. And so, he dropped him off at his house, man. And so what Leroy did was Leroy went into his house. He stayed by himself. He was a loner. He was a craftsman. He was a loner. 40 years old, man. He just was by himself. He didn't have a wife or anything. So what Leroy did was, he went and got him a piece of notebook paper and a pencil. He burnt his candle. He got his whiskey out. He normally drinks whiskey when he go home at night. And, he had his glass of whiskey, he had his candle beside him. He was sitting in his chair. He had his pencil and his paper, and it was dim in his house. And he did exactly what the guru was telling him to do. So what Leroy did was he wrote down on a piece of paper all the things that he wanted, for himself in his life, like right now, all the things that he needed. So Leroy drank his whiskey. He was thinking, shocked about what he just heard, and he was anxious to put it to work. He was an atheist. Now he has started to become something like a believer, because it made so much sense. And so he wrote down on his paper 3 things. He said, I want 3 things. He said, I want all the money I need. He didn't say he wanted wealth or anything. He just said, I want all the money he was like, universe, I want all the money I need. Infinite intelligence. I want all the money I need. Then he would say, I want health. I want to be very healthy. You know, I don't always be drinking whiskey every time I come home at night. I want to be healthy, infinite intelligence. And then he said, I would sure like to have me somebody to stay with. I've been staying by myself all these years. I ain't even got no wife. I ain't had none and I don't know how long. I would like to have love. So all the money I need, health and love. And he wrote that down. All the money I need, health and love. Now he folded his paper up and he stored it away in one of his craftsman books. You know, the craftsman book, because he studied craftsmanship outside of his work hours and things of that nature. So he said to himself, infinite intelligence. He closed his eyes, he said, infinite intelligence. I believe that you are always working for me at all times throughout the day. And I believe that you will have granted me. See, he said, I believe that you have given me all the money I need, health, and love. I'm looking for a significant other. I believe that I received these things because I know that you told me that the guru said that all I have to do is know that you have already given it to me. And he just let it go. Now, the thing that Leroy did, now this is what the thing Leroy did, because you know Tom was going to question him the next day about what he did last night. So, you know, he went to work and told Tom, you know, about the things that he did the night before and all this. But see, Leroy was different from Tom. Tom had been doing this for years. You know, he was kind of saturated in religion and beliefs and doctrine. But Tom, being the fact that he was an atheist, coming straight into learning something like this, he was anxious to see if it worked because he was an atheist. You know, he wanted to prove Tom wrong just in case it didn't work. So he used all his might, all his tenacity to see to it that this works. And if it didn't work, he was going to prove Tom wrong by saying, hey, you know, I wrote this stuff down. I ain't got it yet. But he didn't say that to Tom. He just kept it to himself. So he told Tom, you know, that's what he gonna be doing. So for the past week, for the whole week, this is what Leroy did every night he went home. You know, when he got his whiskey out, he went and connected with Source. He sat in that chair with that candle lit. He connected with Source. I have received all the money I need by the infinite intelligence of the universe. I have received all the health that I need, you know, and I have received love. I believe that the infinite intelligence has given these things to me. And, you know, he walked in it every day. He walked in the belief that it was already done. See, Leroy used to be an atheist, yo. He was doing something that was new, but he was doing it better than people who already knew. You see, he didn't know no better. He just knew the instructions that the guru had told them, and he performed them better than other people already knew the instruction, because he came from being an atheist. He was doing something different. He had a fresh mind, a fresh belief, a fresh understanding. And every day he went to work, he was so happy. He was so happy that he even built a sofa that was so beautiful, so pretty. Leroy, he built a sofa that was so pretty, so beautiful for himself, because he had already built what the job had expected him to build. You know, he built a sofa so beautiful, man, in that 1 week that everybody in the warehouse was like shocked, like, golly, that is so nice. That is so nice. So here's what happened. So one day, the CEO of the company was scheduled to show up at the warehouse that Tom and Leroy worked at. And the CEO did show up. And the CEO was walking with the boss, you know, and they were walking through the warehouse, and, you know, Leroy was doing his job, and Tom was doing his thing, you know, he had his headphones in, you know, they over there building their furniture and stuff like that. And so when the CEO and the boss got around the area that Leroy and Tom worked, the CEO stopped. The CEO said, "What's that?" The boss was like, "Oh, we mean Leroy?" The CEO was like, "No, not that guy, but that sofa right there, that's not something that we build here. That's not our design. That's not our brand. What is that?" The boss got scared, was like, "Oh, well, you know, that's just, you know, something that we show people that come in, you know, that." Then the CEO just started walking back to it by this time. So the boss was really scared. And by this time, Leroy had seen that the CEO was walking to the sofa that he built, for himself. And so the boss didn't want the CEO to feel like, this guy, Leroy, is making furniture for himself with our material. But the CEO didn't think like that. The CEO was just completely dumbfounded as to how beautiful and how nice this sofa was. It was so gorgeous. It was nothing like the CEO had never seen in his life. And the CEO was a big connoisseur, a big connoisseur in furniture designs and concepts. I mean, it was his warehouse. It was his company. It was his furniture company. So he was just shocked. It was so beautiful. It was nice. And so the CEO asked the boss, who did this? And so Leroy had said, I did it. And the boss said, he was pointing at Leroy. By this time, Tom even looking like, and they looking at Leroy stuff, but Tom wasn't no hater or nothing like that. He was just, wondering what was going on. And so the CEO started talking to Leroy and say, hey man, how did you do it? I want to know how you did this design. I love it. It's the best design I've ever seen of all my years running this company. You need to be with us at the big house. You need to be with us in the corporate office. As a matter of fact, you're leaving with me. You're leaving with me. You're about to be my right-hand designer for this company. So the CEO was so shocked, he immediately left the warehouse and he took Leroy with him. Now, Leroy was timid. Leroy was timid, like looking at his boss like, should I go? I don't know. Should I go? And then, his boss was just like, yes. His boss was happy this time because the boss, I thought that the CEO was going to be getting him in trouble because something was being built that wasn't supposed to be built. But he was like, yeah, man, just go. So Leroy, he went, and he went home, grabbed him some clothes, and they caught a jet, and they went back to New York. They went back to New York to the head honcho offices of the furniture place, and Leroy got in there and showed the CEO and all the personnel of the company how he had designed such a nice sofa, and he told them all the nooks and crannies of what he did to build the sofa in this form and fashion, and he had created a blueprint for the company. And right there on the spot, the CEO had made him the lead designer for this furniture company. So immediately he got a pay raise. Leroy got a pay raise. And he was big dog. He was in New York. He was the big dog now. And so first thing that happened that he wrote down after that whole 2 weeks of practicing spirit, mind, universe, of practicing it and then walking in it and believing it and repeating over all night that the infinite intelligence had already given him what he wanted, and walking in happiness, he had already tackled one of them, which was all the money he needed because he was now the lead designer for this new furniture company. Now, living his new life, he had to adapt to it, of course. He had to adapt to the streets of New York. It was beautiful. He had never seen nothing like it. Coming from nowhere, being an atheist. Now he believed in spirit, mind, universe. Now he knows that he knocked off one of the things that he wanted, and he's really convinced, like, this really works. I finally found something that works for me. Oh my God, thank you, universe. The infinite intelligence is real. He would run up and down the streets and he'd be so happy. He's still walking in his joy because he had experienced that the law of attraction had actually manifested something for the first time. So, going back and forth to work every day. Now, these guys that he worked with at his furniture company, they were super sharp. They were millionaires, man. They was fit. They was sturdy. They was strong. They had it going on, and they had business suits on, and they fit the business suit. And Leroy noticed this. Leroy was a little flabby guy. He was slim, but he wasn't tight. He wasn't ripped. And so Leroy was just admiring the way they looked. And, he asked one of the guys, he was like, man, is there a gym around here? One of his coworkers, is there a gym around here that I can go to? I would sure like to get some guns on my arms, man, like you guys have. The guy was like, man, yeah, down on 48th Street, man, you can go down there, sign up, get you a pass, start working out. So later on that night after work, later on that evening after work, that's what Leroy did. He went down there, signed up, got him a membership, and, Look, Leroy making my guns come out this little tight shirt. Leroy making my guns come out this. I'm feeling strong. I'm feeling like King Balboa. You know, I'm feeling like Leroy. And so Leroy went down there and he got him an application, got him a card, got him a pass to go to the gym, start working out that night. Leroy different from everybody else. He got strong willpower, strong mind power. This is why he was able to complete the law of attraction manifestation #1 faster than Tom. Because he came from an atheist. He didn't believe in nothing. Nobody ever told him to believe in anything. And so he was good at believing in what somebody told him is good for him. Just like the guy told him to go down to the gym. He did it. He got the pass that night. He took his work clothes off at the gym. Had some basketball shorts on up under that with a tank top. He started working out that night. And every night he would go and he would work out. He would get out work, go and work out. When he had time, he'd go, he would work out. And now by this time, Leroy was pretty fit. After a month, Leroy was pretty fit. So Leroy didn't notice that he was fit. Leroy didn't notice that, he had started being healthy because people in the gym was starting to, notice that he was there regularly and they would tell him little tips and little things that he could eat, hey man, go on this diet. So Leroy was doing all that stuff. He was taking protein shakes from time to time. And so, after a month time, Leroy was just, sitting in his office. He had a big office at this time. He was just sitting in his office just thinking. He was just looking at himself like, wow, I feel way a lot better than I did when I was working at the warehouse. Man, I feel a lot better. And it dawned on him, the universe, the infinite intelligence spoke to him and said, Leroy, you are healthy. Leroy say, aha, oh my God, I just did the second thing on the list. I have health. I have health. Leroy had finally became healthy. So now he had completed two. He had completed two things that he wanted from the universe on his list. He had completed two. He had completed all the money he needed. He got it. Now he was healthy. And so Leroy thought to himself, he was so ecstatic and so happy and so excited. He thought to himself, oh man, what was that last thing I needed? Well, it was something else that I wanted. He was like, do you remember okay. Yeah, it was love. It was love. So, Leroy, he's smart, but he don't really have a lot of common sense. And so, somebody had to tell him something in order for him to know, like what to do, and he's like one of those timid guys, like, he's just straight nerdy, but he's smart if you tell him what to do with what he wants to do. So he did the normal thing. He went down to the same guy that told him how to go get the membership. The guy said, man, you look good, Leroy, man. You look good, man. Man, golly, man, what you doing with your life, man? You working out, man. You about my size, man. Leroy's like, yeah, I wanted health. So he was like, yeah, right, yeah, right. You want to help, man? He was like, but let me tell you this, man. Man, there's some fine ladies that's going to be at the little spot tonight. Leroy was like, what's that? He was like, there's some fine ladies going to be at the spot tonight, man. As a matter of fact, man, that's why I met my lady at. That's what he told Leroy, his co-worker. Man, that's why I met my lady at, man, and she is a fine woman. Woo, woo. You wait till you see my girl. And when you see my woman, man, don't you do nothing I wouldn't do, man. But hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you this, man. I want you to come down to the spot with me and my girl tonight, man. This lounge, and it's gonna be some fine women down there, Leroy. I'm telling you, man. You just come on out. What time you gonna be ready tonight? Leroy's like, well, I'll be ready. I'll be ready about let's say about 6:30, And so he went home. He got ready, and co-worker and his girlfriend came and picked Leroy up. They went to the lounge, and they was chilling. Now, when they got in there, the lounge was like an eatery spot, type chill, type drinks and stuff like that. Now, when they got in there, listen. Now, when they got in there, the co-worker and his girlfriend, they was kind of like hip to doing their own thing. Leroy, a grown-ass man, and so they ain't gonna be up under him, babying him, but only thing that the co-worker told him was like, man, now look, man, you do your thing in here, man. Do your thing in here. Listen, you can have drinks, you can go sit down and get you something to eat. You can get some hookah over there, man. You can do whatever you want to do, man. This is the spot. Look at all these ladies in here, man. This spot is nice. So Leroy was like, yeah, okay, man. Well, I guess I'll go over there to the bar and have me some whiskey then. He was like, yeah, man, that's a good idea. Hey, man, get this man some whiskey. It's on me. That's what the coworker said. So Leroy went over to the bar, got him a shot of whiskey or whatever, and he went, and he sat down at this table. Now, he was sitting at this table amongst all these people. Now, it's like everybody was together. Everybody came with somebody or something like that, or friends or something. Leroy sat at the table by himself. Wasn't nobody across from him. He was just, he was just drinking his whiskey. He had never been to a spot like this. It was totally different from where he came from. And it's just like, he was strong. He was healthy. He had a pocket full of money, but he didn't really like take it seriously like that. He was just, just kind of like nervous, like. And then all of a sudden, he looked to the left and he noticed this woman who was sitting symmetrically directly across from him, beside him, but she was sitting on the opposite side of how he was sitting right here. She was sitting on the opposite side, so he could see her diagonally sitting there. She was sitting by herself too, drinking a drink by herself too. It looked like she was drinking a Long Island iced tea or something, because she had like a big bowl drink, and he had a shot of whiskey, and he was looking at her, and she was looking at him, and she kind of started laughing, and Leroy noticed it, and Leroy was just like, kind of shy, and then she asked Leroy, she said, "Where you from?" She was like, he was like, well, I just moved up here to New York. I'm from the South. She was like, well, she was like, well, you by yourself? And Leroy said, well, I came with my friend, my coworker, and his girlfriend, but I don't know where they at. They somewhere around here somewhere, but it's kind of loud in here. But and then next thing you know, she gets up and she comes and sat on right in front of Leroy, right in front of him. And Leroy really shy. He took another shot of whiskey. He's like, well, I'm just out here having a good time. And she was like, you look pretty good. You're solid. You're healthy. You're a handsome man. And Leroy was like, thank you, thank you. And she asked Leroy, now she was tough a little bit. She asked Leroy, she said, you got a man? I mean, not a man, but she said, you got a woman? Leroy say, yeah, nah. She was just getting in his business because the man looked like he had money. Leroy looked like he had money. He had a lot of money. He was the lead designer of a furniture company. And then he had good health. He was strong. He been eating his eggs. He been eating his green foods and everything. He looked good, y'all. He looked good. He in New York. Come on now. Any woman see a single man in New York sitting at a table drinking a shot of whiskey by himself, she know he doing something special. And so Leroy started to have a conversation with her, and that's when he met her. And they had been talking. Now, after they left, back to the job, they've been talking for quite some time now. They would call each other. Sometimes she'll come over to see Leroy at his house, and and they just started to get along. They started to, wrap up and, be together. And the next thing you know, they was girlfriend and boyfriend. And the next thing you know, they fell in love. They fell in love after a couple months. They started to fall in love. And so, Leroy went back to his office one day. Then he thought to himself, I love her. I love her. I think I might want to marry her one day. And then it dawned on him. Infinite Intelligence said, Leroy, you have love. And then Leroy jumped out and said, oh my God. I believe. And that day, Leroy had believed in the infinite intelligence of the universe, folks. He had believed in the infinite intelligence of the universe. He knew that the trick behind manifesting anything into his life was if he could get the way he feel to align up with what he was thinking in his mind, it will connect with the universe, and the universe will give him everything that he wanted and manifest it in due time, because it's all divine. So with that being said, folks, if you can get what you want, and you know that you will receive it through the infinite intelligence, that has to be your prayer. I will receive such and such because the infinite intelligence is divine. If you can get what you want to receive in your mind, and then in your feeling, in your spirit, the Holy Spirit, what the scripture and the religious people call it, the Holy Spirit, once you can get the Holy Spirit to align with the Son of God, the mind, And then that aligns with the Father, the universe. The universe, folks, will be, and if you walk in it and you know it's already done. See, the thing about the infinite intelligence, folks, is it's always giving you how you imagine yourself to be. Leroy was imagining that he already have it, and then all the things that came after that, whether it was negative, positive, he didn't despise negative things that started to happen after he was saying his meditations and his visualizations. He didn't despise negative things that was happening. He didn't look at people and think that they were bad and that the universe was, judging them. He looked at his whole life as it was an aspect of the infinite intelligence giving him what he wanted. He knew that after that moment, he prayed that prayer. He put those laws into emotion. He knew, unlike some people that had been going to that guru for a long time, he put it in play the best, because he knew that everything after that was going to fall into alignment with what he wanted. And he trusted the universe, universal powers, and the divine oneness, that everything that happened after that, whether it was good or bad or people come into his life, he trusted every last thing that happened and looked at it as something good, and it's a part of the thing that he wants to attract into his life. Now see, some people can't do it, because as soon as they set some laws in emotion, they go back to thinking in their regular mind. They start to judge people that the universe bring into their life. Oh, I don't like him. He black. He white. Oh, I don't like. She got on this. She got on that. I got a bill to pay. Why didn't let me do this? Why this car right here won't get out the way? And they know I got to get down there. So many people go right back into their ego and those negative feelings, and they distort the whole process. They don't even trust in the infinite intelligence. The infinite intelligence knows all things beyond what we can imagine. That's why the only thing that's best for you to do is just walk in the path. That's the only best thing for you to do, is walk in the path like Leroy, and just know that the infinite intelligence and the power of belief in divine oneness is always working for you, no matter whether the situation is good or bad. If after you set those laws in emotion, anything after that, it's meant to be. That's why Leroy attracted all that stuff so fast, because he was non-judgmental, he was non-stereotypical, he was not biased, he was not egotistical. He was an atheist and came into believing something that he never knew, and he did it better than people that had been doing it for years, and then he attracted his dream life that fast. So with that being said, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this story. If this story helped you out, give this video a thumbs up now. Give this video a thumbs up now. And speak up, let your voice be heard. Leave a comment below if this video resonated with you. Let me know what you think about this story. Let me know what you think about the power of belief in divine oneness. Don't leave this video until you leave your feedback. Leave a comment, give back. The universal laws is working right now, folks, in the direction for you. You understand what I'm saying? So also, before you leave, folks, I have something that I want to tell you. Now, I follow this guy named Producer Michael, right? He's an entrepreneur. He's a producer, of course, obviously. He's rich. He's wealthy. He lives out in Beverly Hills, California, and he's one of the most humblest, wealthiest persons that you're ever going to meet. I think y'all hear me talk about him all the time. So what I did was, last night I was watching another one of his videos where he supposedly was about to buy this $1 million jet, right? And the thing is, he didn't even buy the jet. He didn't even buy the jet. He was manifesting the jet. Now, I ain't gonna tell you what he did. I'm gonna let you watch the video. But Producer Michael is gonna show you how he is manifesting a jet with his words and his actions. So when you watch that video, I'm gonna post that video in the comment section above my email, just in case you might want to sign up and get my life coaching. I'm gonna post that video above my email. You go watch that video of Producer Michael and look and listen to the things that he's saying about this jet that he is going to get, but he didn't even buy it yet. Watch how he used the power of manifestation. See, I'll be picking up on how the rich people be doing this stuff. And he is a prime example of how the rich and the wealthy get exactly what they want. Just listen to how he talks. Listen to the things that he says when he's walking around talking in that camera. Just listen to Producer Michael, because I don't know him personally, but I know he's using a universal law secretly. So check that video out, folks. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe up here by clicking my little by clicking my little face icon right there. It's up there somewhere right there. Click that. Make sure you subscribe so you can stay updated with new videos every 24 hours. Click the bell so that you can be notified with new videos every 24 hours. You don't want to miss a video, folks. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.